Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Two Player Mode with Phylicia from Play Ventures. And for those of you who haven't listened before, every couple of weeks or so we go through a rundown of all the latest events in the games industry and also stuff that's relevant to Web3 more broadly. And every now and again, we also are lucky enough to have very cool guests. So we've had, Gabby from YGG in the past and some other folks. But today we're joined by Viktoriya and Sean from B3. And so I guess for those of you who are not familiar with B3, why don't you guys introduce yourselves and talk about what you're doing?
Nice. Thanks so much, Simon. I can kick us off. Good to see everyone. I'm so excited to be on this podcast, or I guess X live stream. I didn't know it was video on, and I was supposed to have a background prepared. Unfortunately, you just see my regular background. That said,
you have a beautiful background.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm Viktoriya. I'm one of the co-founders of B3. There's three of us. One of us could not join today because he's mid-flight after his wedding, which we were all at. It was a lovely, lovely time. I specifically focus on a lot of the marketing and operations strategy for B3. And we'll talk about B3, I think, a little later, but I'll pass it off to Sean.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Pleasure to be here. I'm Sean. I'm the technical co-founder. So a lot more focused on the engineering side, but excited to step out of my computer cave and into the Twitter sphere. And so excited to chat about all things gaming.
Super.
Very cool.
Nice to have Viktoriya and Sean, so that it's not just me and Simon on this 2-player mode. I think
you guys usually have guests though, right? Like it's not just the two of you, or is it?
We usually have guests. Sometimes we don't, and then it's just me and him. So it's always
Phylicia, put us in. We're available every Wednesday.
Okay. All right, let's do it. Changing it to 4-player.
I love it.
It's a Mario Party.
So we actually, you said we'll talk about it later, but actually, why don't we just start by talking about B3 and kind of what's been going on there. So, for everyone who's not familiar, so I'm the CEO at Mighty Bear, and so we're behind Goat Gaming. You see these chains. We are one of the projects on Goat, and just within the first 10 days, I think we've seen something like 275,000 users on the bot and nearly 4 million on-chain transactions, and the chain has held up great. So that's props to you guys as well. But why don't you share a little bit about what is unique about B3 and the kind of vision you have for it?
Yeah, I can kick us off and then Sean can go into some of the details, but we also won't bore you with a lot of the details because this is supposed to be a fun podcast, not like a technical deep dive into all the cool shit we're building. So at the highest of all levels, B3 is an L3 ecosystem specific to gaming built on top of Base. It's built on top of Base because the entire team is ex-Base and Coinbase. And we are firm believers in what we had built while at Coinbase. And now we want to expand that, but specific to the gaming vertical. And so we launched a chain that's horizontally scaled. It's able to take on a lot of TPS. I'm banned from saying unlimited TPS per Sean. So a lot of TPS. And in addition to the chain itself, the cool thing that we built as a proof of concept is basement.fun, which is why in all of our names, it's like B3/basement.fun. Because when you go to B3.com, it's just developer docs and you can deploy on B3 and you can launch your games on B3. But the star of the show is really Basement. It's called Basement because you play video games in your basement. And the reason for us building it is right now, there's no on-chain homepage for games. You are siloed into this ecosystem or that. And it's hard to find what's live on Optimism, what's live on Base. And so the intent here is this collaboration over competition approach where we index all the games across EVM and eventually multiple VMs. And you have a place and a home where you can play everything on chain. And Sean's the genius and mastermind behind a lot of Basement Fun and all the cool features we have. So anything that I didn't touch on that's fun and hypey and you want to touch on, Sean, go for it.
Yeah. I definitely can't take the credit. We have a great team, of course. And, I have a small hand in what happens, but it is for sure a team effort to make any game really happen on chain. And, Viktoriya's not allowed to say unlimited TPS, right? But I think that we have unlimited vibes for sure, and that's certainly what is so great about the crypto space and why like we're choosing to build with Base, with Go Gaming, and all the partners that we worked with have been so incredible, because I think we all share this vision of like, you know, how do we actually bring gaming to the masses and crypto gaming to the masses, right? We hear this a lot. Like everyone in crypto is like hyper, always perpetually optimistic that like, if you build the right infrastructure, if you build the right, you know, if you have enough block space or whatever, that like suddenly 1 billion people are going to march through the door. But I think the reality is like, that's not really going to happen, right? Like, in fact, you need to build great applications and you need to build great hooks and incentives to bring people in. Because otherwise, like there's no reason, right, for somebody to switch out of a traditional gaming system or a traditional whatever application they're using, which is working fine for them. And so that's why we chose to build both the blockchain layer as well as the application layer, right? I think we've seen some success with like decentralized social with other folks in the space who are trying these things, and I think that's the right approach. No shade, of course, to the incredible like infrastructure folks who are doing all of the hard work to build primitives and innovate on the blockchain side to make these things happen. But we frankly do need more people building applications. And gaming specifically, I think, is like such a good hook, right, to bring the average person in. And you know, our initial like iteration of Basement, I think, is still like it's a first like opinionated take, and it's one that we're going to continue to iterate on to bring even more fun and even more abstracted, so that it truly is something that like I can give to my grandma or you know, some random mom who used to play Farmville on Facebook in Nebraska can come and use, right? And like I think if we do that, like we have a meaningful shot at actually like opening the door to bring in more people to grow the pie, which benefits us all.
Very cool. I guess just one last thing before we jump into the latest, right? Just in maybe just 1 or 2 lines, what has you, because I'm sure there's lots of different things, but what has you most excited or what you most stoked for coming on B3 in the next kind of few days or few weeks?
But Simon, do you mean outside of Go Gaming and everything you have built and are launching?
Well,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, obviously no self-nominations, but you know, what any interesting projects or developments that you're stoked for, new games or tools, or perhaps some sort of incentive and rewards system that might be coming up?
Yeah. Ooh. So we have a ton happening. I think Sean and I come up with really crazy ideas, mostly Sean, and then I'm the one that's like, let's fucking do it. Oh shit, am I allowed to swear on this? There's no children watching this.
I love
don't
it.
think there's
how
any
you
children.
said
Just
shit,
go
but
for
I
it.
swear. Yeah, go for it.
Go for it.
Okay. So anyway, a lot of crazy ideas, and half of them are more pragmatic. CEO and co-founder shuts down, but a lot of them he's like, just do it, I guess, just do it. So we have a lot coming down the line, but I think the one thing that we're focused on right now for the next couple of weeks here, because it's super exciting and it is time boxed for a very specific reason, is our XP points. So when you play games on Basement Fun, you earn experience, just like you would playing PlayStation or anything on any console or PC. You get to earn, yeah. Wait,
Nice.
did mine do that?
I don't know. My Mac
Nice.
randomly does that, so I like
I
to
think-
deploy it.
Yeah, mine does the random heart sometimes. Never mind.
Okay.
So experience points, and you can get on the leaderboard, and you can be number 1 or number 2 or number 3. And you can not only gain experience points by playing Basement Fun, but when you participate in Go Gaming and you play any of the games, you also earn GOAT specific experience points called Builder Points, BP. So we have 2 versions. There's XP that you earn as a user playing on Basement.fun. And then there's BP that's awarded to tier 1 strategic partners like Go Gaming, AAA, the best of the best. And then the Go Gaming team is able to allocate those points onto their users for participating and engaging. And so we're super excited about that system. It's not just a point system. It's not, hey, accrue this and maybe something will happen, maybe something won't happen. Something's going to happen and it's going to be great. And it's not what everybody thinks, but it is, but it isn't. And there's also additional utility to collecting these experience points and participating in the ecosystem. And that's what Sean's building. And we're rolling this out on like a bi-weekly, weekly basis. There's always something new to do on Basement.fun. We're a team that ships. We launched the testnet in May. We launched mainnet in August. literally just a couple of weeks ago. And so we are consistently shipping, consistently adding to the experience, and every little piece counts because it allows you to unlock more cool things to do within the ecosystem. And so there's a lot of Easter eggs here. But that's what I'm most excited about, I think, at this point in time, alongside all of the other applications that we're working on that are going to be going live very shortly here. But I'll pass it over to Sean.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Viktoriya. Like, isn't that what we're all here to do? Everybody who's in crypto, at least, like, I remember in some of the early days, like the people who participate in crypto are like pioneers, right? Like, you want to be on the bleeding edge, you want to try new things, and we try to embody that what we do. And part of that is a little bit of experimentation. We try to bring that like builder energy, ship, right? Not everything is going to be working from day one, right? You're going to have a few like quirks here and there, but you're like at the bleeding edge. And so, in the same way, like, we encourage the community, we encourage people to participate in this who want to try new experiences and experience maybe what like potentially could be some future iterations of like on-chain gaming, and go on that journey with us. I think over time everything gets a little bit more polished and like a little bit more ready for like true masses and masses. But the people who are on this Twitter Spaces are clearly, I think, folks who are interested in that experimentation and participating in a little bit more of like the innovation side. So like, kudos to you. I 100% identify with that mindset, and we're excited for people to like watch us try things. Some of them are going to fail, some of them are going to work great. Other like, what I'll say is like, you're going to have a good time. At least we're all going to have a good time trying some of these things out. And somewhere along the way, I think we might strike on some things that are truly unique to the superpowers of crypto, where you can really do like certain things on chain in the form of like, quasi equity and these kind of like fun, like ownership mechanics that are offered through the blockchain, to really participate in what we think will be like some new models for gaming in general.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I'm bullish on seeing number go up, basically. And that's what you guys are offering. Right? That's why everyone likes here. Number up. People just are here I'm actually going to make a meme about that with the bell curve, and in the middle you've got people talking about like narrative and lore and backstory, and like the other side it's just like players want to see number go up. Let's kick off then and talk about what's been going on in gaming. Do you want to start off, Phylicia? Because you've been doing a lot of research into this first story.
Well, I will then. So let's get into the news then, which is what I guess what everybody came here for, besides the wonderful B3 guests we have. So if you guys have heard of Black Myth Wukong, that's the most latest hit making waves in the gaming world. It's considered to be the first Chinese developed AAA title. And they've been smashing records. This is a single player ARPG, sold on Steam. It peaked at 2.4 million max concurrent players playing at the same time. I think they've since sold, allegedly, originally it was 10 million in the first week, 10 million copies. I think that has increased now to 17.8 million units sold on Steam. It's developed by Game Science, which is a Chinese studio. They had a budget of about $80 million. And so they've clearly smashed it out of the ballpark with ROI. This has been making waves because I think it's really the first of its kind to come out from a Chinese studio on Steam, allegedly. I see Simon's face thinking about it. I think he has some thoughts and comments, but it's a good time for the studio. So congratulations to them, as well as the publisher, which I believe was Hero Games from China. I looked at it. I haven't played it yet. I downloaded it. I haven't quite played it yet, but the game looks super polished. It looks fun. I mean, it's based on Journey to the West, which is a very complete world, complete narrative. I think companies in China have also been actually giving people time off. So I guess the question for B3 is, will your team get time off to farm XP? Or are you going to take a page from that?
I think some of the engineering team has already been playing. They told me that it's a great game. I haven't gotten a chance to try myself, but from what I have seen, like the visuals look incredible. I
Yeah.
think it's Unreal Engine 5, and I actually heard
Yes.
that the game devs like switched halfway through development to like from different Unreal Engine versions, which must have been a little bit of like a challenge. But all I can say is that the end result looks incredible, and I'm looking forward to trying it out.
It does. I mean, it does. Like, just I think for context, it's reached 852 million gross revenue. So that's before platform fees and taxes. Average playtime of about 27.3 hours. I think the excitement is kind of that, you know, this is the first big kind of global title that has come out from a Chinese AAA studio. So what are your thoughts on that, Simon? I feel like you have feelings.
Yeah, I don't want to be there. I think, look, first thing to acknowledge is like it's an incredibly polished game and it's really good. I think it's found what I would call narrative market fit. So the whole narrative about it being the first like Chinese AAA game is not really true. Like, there have been AAA games coming out of China since the 2000s, but they were just under, you know, the banner of CCP or EA or Ubisoft, which has been doing stuff in Shanghai forever. Riot, I think, does pretty much of, maybe not all, but a very large part of some of their mobile products in China as well. So I guess it's probably the first independent AAA game maybe to come out of China, which is a bit more nuanced, right? But I think the other thing that doesn't quite, if you look at the data, doesn't quite align, is that there's this narrative that it's like a national success and that it's done really well globally, and therefore it proves that hyper localized narrative and lore can translate outside of East Asia. And actually, if you look at the concurrent user base, the last figures I saw, that like 88% of the concurrents were in China, which meant that like fewer than 200,000 were actually playing outside of China concurrently, which is still like decent numbers, but that does position it as being more of a cult game than being something that's truly mass market. And so I'm just a bit wary that, you know, not every investor does all their research.
I think you might have cut out. Yeah.
Somebody doesn't want him to say something. Quick, come back.
Melissa muted him.
Melissa muted him. Yeah. It's like, shh. Anyway, I'll just continue on. I think it is true. Melissa's like, no, I didn't mute him. We know it was you. We know it was you.
Simon. But he was just on to the good bits. He was like,
yeah,
it was getting spicy.
Yeah, it was getting spicy. Calling it out because I did my research. So just for the listeners who are interested in terms of Wukong's sales, China was actually 76% of their sales. The US was 6%. Ooh. Ooh.
Oh, we're getting pieces.
Gosh. The tea is coming through. Well, anyway. Yep. He's gone.
Oh no.
We'll continue on with my fun fact. So China 76% of Wukong sales, the US 6%. So pretty high. 1% from Hong Kong. But I think what's more interesting in general about Steam is that for the first time ever, more Steam users actually use simplified Chinese as their language rather than English, which I think is pretty indicative. That's about 35% of Steam users use simplified Chinese as opposed to 31% using English. You were going to spill some tea and talk some shit about investors doing their research, Simon.
Yeah, basically, like, there's this narrative that maybe now, it shows that super localized content can travel internationally, and I'm actually not really sure the numbers actually really bear that out. And so we could end up seeing a slew of like copycat games that will bomb, and no one wants to see that. It's not good for the devs or the industry. So I guess that's my one note of caution.
Yeah, I think the takeaway should actually be that, number one, I think in terms of, full credit to the developers and the publishers because they did a great job with the game itself. It is very polished, it looks great, but I think what they really got right was like choosing that journey to the West, that whole world as the basis for the world, the environment, the lore was very complete, and it is a classic piece of Chinese literature that I think travels well. So
was there any tie-in to League of Legends? Because there's so much like Reddit chatter of like, this is a spin-off. Wukong, like he's a character. This is obviously a hat. Like, is there any tie-in here, or is that just
no? I mean, like Journey to the West, which is and Wukong is the main character in that, is like a classic piece of Chinese like literature story. So I would say League kind of drew inspiration from that versus the other way around. You know, the story of Wukong is basically, at least what they used to do in TV, was like the monkey god basically is a deity, and he pissed off some, I think, Buddha, then got punished for it, and went on a tale of redemption, learning patience and virtues and stuff.
And people love the Monkey King, you know. He's like a little bit of like the anti-hero in a way, because he's also a bit of a gesture, and you know, he's fun, and he, you know, he's got that very like comedic style in some like original Chinese like depictions, or at least like pop culture, you know, references.
So I guess maybe if the Yugo Labs and the Ape team are looking at this, like this world, you know, narrative and lore mix, it's very cool.
Yeah.
Do you think this is one of those games that, like, you know, yes, I think it sounds like the original bulk of the volume is happening in China, but do you think it like kind of migrates its way as it's like making its way through different circles, you know, different communities, and then people in the West, you know, like, oh, I need to try this game, right? And you see kind of like a secondary,
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who maybe didn't hear about it, and saw kind of just like the headlines and all the great reviews that have been coming out. I mean, the game speaks for itself. It does look fantastic, and I'm gonna spend some time playing it. So, congratulations to the team, also because as we know, like it's hard to push out games that work. In another more high profile example, Concord, which is Sony's latest PS game, is being taken offline shortly after launching on 23rd August. These guys sold, 17 million copies. Wukong did. These guys, Concord, sold 25K. So that's with a 100 million budget, 8 years of development. Our condolences to the developers and the team. It's hard work shipping a game, and it's devastating.
Mm-hmm.
I guess just quickly on Concord, like, who knew that Concord was coming out? Because we all work in the games industry. I didn't know until I saw the announcement that it was even out.
No idea.
I did not. Well, or at least I wasn't.
It's crazy because they crushed it with Helldivers like a few weeks ago, right? Or a few months ago. But yeah, I guess that's a topic for another day. I'd love to see a deep dive on what happened there.
Next Wednesday?
Right,
Wednesday,
let's talk
same time zone?
Next Wednesday?
Yeah, next Wednesday.
You're going to do the deep dive?
Deep dive.
Deep dive.
Melissa
we'll get the
pull you
GOAT
off
intern to do a deep dive.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Simon, are you going to be able to take this one?
Yeah, let's go for it. Am I chopping out?
Yes, you are.
A little bit.
Oh. Yeah, all right. Why don't you take this one?
All right, I'm going to take it.
Right back again.
He's going to be right back. He's leaving me to do all the hard work today. So the next piece of news.
Simon's internet connection is busy downloading all of the future games.
Wukong. Yeah, right. He's trying to play.
The next one, we go back to our favorite ecosystem, Web3, and Hamster Kombat is revealing their token launch airdrop in September. I think it was 26th of September is when it'll launch its Hamster token and hold airdrop for players on the same date. It was delayed because of the large-scale planning needed for the drop. I mean, they have attracted 300 million players since its launch in spring. They've had 80 million active players over the past month. That's a whole lot of people. It's tap-to-earn experience, if in case you're not aware, built on the tap-to-earn format that's been popularized initially by Notcoin. The team is anonymous and basically developed a crypto exchange CEO simulation, in case you are familiar with the game. How do you guys feel about this one? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you gonna be playing more Hamster Kombat in the meantime?
I mean, so I think the beauty of Hamster Kombat is its bluntness. Not Queen came out pretty blunt. Hamster Kombat came out even more blunt, if that's possible. And I think it's incredible what they've achieved. Everybody kind of brushed it off initially, and then I kept getting videos from my friends in Russia and Ukraine and Eastern Europe in general of people on the subway or queuing in line and just tapping. And everyone thought it was a joke until it wasn't. The interesting thing about the airdrop is I am curious to see how they execute on it. Everyone is coming out with new ways to, do the airdrop in a novel way where you don't piss off a bunch of people, because inevitably you are going to piss off people. And so it's, can you piss off the least amount of people while also making a lot of other people very happy? And it'll be interesting with 300 million players, and everybody expecting what I imagine life-changing money to be airdropped into their wallet. It's going to be quite a feat if they succeed, and very interesting to watch if they don't. Well, both. It'll be interesting to watch both cases. So I'm very bullish. I'm very excited. I cannot wait. I really should be tapping right now, but here I am.
Yeah, we probably all should be right now. So that's why Simon's disconnected so many times.
Yeah.
He's again busy doing other things.
It's not the hotel Wi-Fi. It's Hamster Kombat. Yeah.
That's right. It's everyone at the hotel playing Hamster Kombat at the same time.
That's right. Multiple devices.
We still have time. It's been pushed. Yeah. We still have a couple of weeks.
Yeah, they might push it again. I don't know. Maybe not.
That's actually not the worst idea.
Why not? For you personally,
because you've got eyeballs on it. Everyone's talking about it, and they say, "Oh, yeah, actually, it's going to be another couple of weeks." That actually would be very good for them.
Would you just position it more as like, we've decided to give you guys another couple of weeks to really earn?
I mean, that would be a very cynical way of doing it, but that's not the worst idea in the world. If you're working on that project, you want to get maximum eyeballs before the airdrop. I think it's great. I think for the TON ecosystem as well, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to bring a lot of players into Telegram gaming more generally as well, and they see that some people are making a few $100s off tapping this game. I think it's net positive for everyone, and it's like credit to the team. I mean, I don't know if you've seen their social media game, but like the YouTube channel they set up for Hamster Kombat, and like some of the stuff they've been doing around that, like it's really smart. What do you think, Sean?
They execute very quickly, right? Like,
yeah,
I think every time there's some kind of news event or whatever, like there's a new skin available in Hamster Kombat, like, and so like I thought that's great. Like, it shows that they're staying very like ear to the ground on just like keeping true both like the spirit of the game, but also like giving people like more things to check in on, and like that customization is always like super fun.
Yeah. And they've also been super on it with the news of the arrest of Telegram founder Pavel Durov as well. Free Durov, privacy, not piracy. Sorry, privacy. It's not a crime. Was it a Freudian slip? I don't know.
Piracy is not a crime.
Privacy is not a crime. Piracy.
It'd be cool if he was a pirate. Actually, I think people would get behind that.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously news broke. Durov was arrested in France on Saturday, I think a couple of Saturdays ago, for offenses tied to a lack of moderation on Telegram. French authorities are saying that he's facilitating illegal activities and obviously not being cooperative. So Ton obviously tweeted his support for Durov. I'm very curious about this one. Then you've got Elon Musk and Edward Snowden obviously piling on and condemning the arrest. Criticizing the French president, Macron. It's just a very interesting and strange situation, but he is out on, I think, a $5 million bail.
That's right, yeah. It's interesting because if the argument is that he's responsible for what happens on his platform, that opens a lot of doors to a lot of other people. It's probably why Elon Musk has been quite as vocal as he has, because there hasn't been much moderation happening on X recently. What do you guys think?
I mean, my personal, like, I'm definitely, like, I think it would be bad for a number of parties, in general. Like, I'm of the same opinion that, like, trying to silence people who are using a platform largely for like communication is a bit of a slippery slope to go down, and like it will end up shuttering a lot of like privacy focused apps, and I think many people in the crypto space, like part of the big reason why people joined is like you have this concept of like ownership and decentralization and privacy that people feel is a human right that of course is always being attacked in some form. And so like I hope it works out for him. Disappointed to see that this is played out this way, personally at least.
Yeah, personal opinions definitely not associated with if our legal team is listening. Definitely not B3 perspective. This is just Sean and Viktoriya.
This is Sean's opinion.
Yeah.
Sean's personal opinion.
Sean and Viktoriya's personal
They're
opinion.
never letting me do another one of these again. Yeah.
We're cut off. Big fan of Silk Road, big fan of Pirate Bay, big fan of Telegram, big fan of Tornado Cash, justice for the mob. That's the position personally we take. So yeah, really hope things work out for Mr. Durov. Have been a fan of him since he created Contacte, which is my second social media profile after MySpace. Yeah, big fan of that. Hope he's able to get out on bail. I'm sure 5 million is just like pocket change for the guy. I don't know why he's already.
Yeah. He's
out. Really low bail.
He's out. He just has to check in. He has to check in at the police station twice a week, which must chafe a man of his.
You can't send like a delegate or something, and
I don't think they're gonna accept that. But it's I think it's a really interesting case to watch, just because I'm not sure if there's been any other cases where the founder has been personally kind of prosecuted for moderation or lack of perceived cooperation by the company.
I mean, Tornado Cash, right?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
They
like
got
on a messaging app.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Messaging app, not really. No.
No.
Yeah, but then what does it say, right? Like if you build a game, your game has like an in-game like chat system. Like what, you're supposed to just turn over all the chats of like players just because the government is like, hey, you need to do it and you're going to jail.
I guess that's what they are saying. I don't know.
Which we are building right now, so we should have a backdoor shot. Maybe build a backdoor.
I mean, like I always thought the defense was always like, dude, it's like encrypted, right? Like I couldn't decrypt it for you if I wanted to, right? Like at least you can somewhat like do that on the blockchain, right? You could be like, I'm sorry, I can't help you, even if I wanted to help you. You just, this is not the way it works.
The arguments I've heard is that unlike, let's say, Signal, their Telegram's encryption is allegedly not, and exactly not completely safe. But then at the same time, it's like, oh, it's encrypted, so we can't get to these baddies who are doing bad things. So it's a difficult argument to make for the prosecution. It's
I mean, I get it too. Like if you're law enforcement, like nobody here likes terrorists. Nobody here likes
of course we don't like
terrible things that are happening. I'm sure with the criminals on the platform, but if you're law enforcement, of course you want every tool available at your disposal to like catch these folks. But you're going to push for it, right? But you also have to accept that like, you can't read thoughts, and there's some things that are like a little out of your limitation of what you can do, and you have to stick to what you can do to like catch these criminals, right? But I think this is a little overreaching, personally.
This is, I think you have to have some nuance when you're approaching something like this, and it feels like they just kind of went right to the deep end.
You're gonna throw the founder in jail, like he's got the master key. We're like, come on.
I guess so, because now if they concede and they start saying we're gonna do all these things, we're gonna I don't know, cooperate in some way. I don't know what that does to the Telegram community as well, because it just feels like you're conceding because you're obviously under personal pressure.
I mean, you can concede and not publicly announce it.
True. And then you'll be mysteriously released without charges being
there'll be, like some kind of slap on the wrist, but actually in the background there's been some kind of concessions.
Probably.
That's actually probably the most likely outcome here.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Are we
you
moving
think,
on
Simon,
to
you think there's a
WhatsApp?
backdoor deal happening here? Like,
Is that the MO? Should we move to WhatsApp, Signal? What's the next bot we're going to build?
No, guys, as long as you're not doing naughty things on Telegram, you're fine. So just don't do the bad stuff.
What's the bad stuff? Who decides? Yeah.
Okay, that's like a whole conversation for another
Yeah.
day. Maybe the French,
Yeah.
the French
we took
prosecutors.
a deep dive here. Really
Yeah.
doubled down.
All right,
Gaming.
let's talk about the next topic then, which was the now.gg store. So I think for me this is interesting because it signifies how people are shifting away from the classic like mobile gatekeepers. So I don't know if you guys saw, but there's been a study that concluded that Google and Apple have not been complying with the Digital Markets Act in Europe. It just got published today. Now.gg is an example of an alternative app store on Telegram. There are more and more of them popping up. You could argue that Go is also that to an extent, but basically people are finding new ways to distribute their apps within kind of messaging platforms. I won't go too much into the details on it, but they already have a bunch of games that have signed up for it. And it also allows integration to like PC and Mac and Line as well. So I think that's pretty cool. How do you guys think about alternative distribution methods popping up on these messaging apps and like the Digital Markets Act and that more broadly?
I am super for it. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, no, I'm for it, right? Like the gatekeepers, as you will, of like the Apples of the world that have essentially a monopoly on like their app store, is not great. It tends not to be great for games and app makers of all kinds. I remember even at Coinbase we dealt with this frequently, which is like, you know, Apple also has like a weird stance with crypto, right? Like they want to collect their tax on things, and you know, it's a kind of a hefty tax. It's like 30% or something, right? And so like I remember they wanted it for like, you know, NFT mints, right? So like how do you do that, right? When like you can kind of access it through a wallet provider or a browser of some kind. But if you build kind of the in-app purchase version, then like, you know, Apple's like, give us our 30%, right? So what do? You tack the fee onto the user, you cover it. Like the economics are like not great here, where, you know, even at least in traditional like credit card processing or whatever, like the fees are close to like 2%, 3%, something like that, which I think is like digestible, right, in terms of a convenience fee. But it's a shame that they're doing it currently. I think kudos to them, and obviously helpful for their stock and their shareholders, of course. But the only way to challenge it is like more distribution, right? Alternatives that force in like a competitive system these players to either come down on their fees or do something to like balance this out, where you're not just gouging these folks who you're, you know, letting into your ecosystem in the marketplace.
I think I totally agree with you, Sean. I think the cool thing that we're observing here is you have this giant Telegram who's amassed millions and millions and millions of people using it for one specific purpose. And it's only been ever used for that purpose. And then you had the likes of, you know, Notcoin come around and showcase that these users aren't just here to chat amongst each other, but there's more that they can do. And here's like a gaming experience where we're actually able to convert the millions of people using this platform. And so instead of, as a game developer, as somebody developing an app, instead of doing my own thing, siloing, creating something, having it go through Apple, maybe getting rejected 6 times and finally approved on the 8th time, I instead go and work with an ecosystem that has the users, less than Apple, of course, less than every device, you know, Apple device in the world, but still a lot of users. And those users are able to convert. And I think that's like bringing us back to even like our Coinbase days. Coinbase has 100 million users and we launched Base. And the intent is we're going to bring all these users on chain and we have 100 million of them. It's going to be the easiest thing in the world. But like we're a year into it and we haven't seen the 100 million users come because it's really hard to convert these people from doing one thing, which is buying Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin in their Coinbase retail account, to actually coming in and doing something else. Telegram has proven and shown to us that their users, the type of persona that uses them for one specific thing, chatting, is also able to then engage in other activities like games. And I'm sure like gaming is just the start. It's going to grow from here. And Telegram is also just the start. There's going to be other ecosystems that are going to start opening up, and kind of having different experiences be layered on to what it was initially built to be. So I'm super excited. That's why I'm super bullish on Goat Gaming, and everything you all are building. But yeah, that's my hot take.
Yeah, I think just to build on what Viktoriya and Sean said, like I think 2023, the stats were 1% of Telegram users engaged with games on Telegram, and 2024 and rising, it's 20% now. So that's a really, really big growth in a very short amount of time. And I'm sure now that there's more apps coming, there's more games coming, there's Go coming, there's going to be even more of that, people finding something else that they want to do on Telegram and using Telegram to do it. To another point, I mean, besides getting your apps, like how many people here have had their apps like rejected or pulled from the App Store by Apple with like completely poor reasons, or completely like reasons that you cannot actually decipher and comprehend what the problem is?
That's normally it. Normally you get one line that doesn't explain what the issue is. And then you can try, which is the trap that a lot of studios fall into, where they resubmit, they try and guess what the issue is. And then it's like 7-8 weeks of resubmissions or rejections, or you do what we do, where you just, thankfully we have the relationships, we can just pick up the phone and find out what's going on. But for 99% of developers, that's actually not the case. And they just have to play ping pong with the approvals team. I have a slightly different take here though. Like,
you're trying to run a business is infuriating.
Yeah, let's hear it. Yeah.
But
I mean, I was speaking to someone from the, Phylicia knows exactly what I'm talking about. Someone from one of the big 2 stores very recently, just a couple of weeks ago in Scandinavia, and sorry, in the Nordics. Finland is not Scandinavia. I always forget that. About what they do and the how the 30% is basically egregious. And I said, look, credit card companies charge anything from like 1% to 2% all the way up to 4% if it's like American Express or something. But how can you justify 30%? And they're like, oh, it's distribution. I was like, but you guys don't help with distribution whatsoever. Like the App Store since 2017 has been curated. It used to be algorithmic, and so you could spend and like get visibility and you could optimize for it. So these days, like you're giving away 30% literally for them to provide payment processing. And so that experience and the changes that Apple made with IDFA were the reason that Mighty Bear went into Web3. And also the reason that we actually decided we were going to build an ecosystem and launch Go, because just distribution is destiny. And if you don't control your own distribution as a game dev, it's really hard to survive. And so as someone who runs a studio, like in 2024, the 30% is outrageous. Like in 2012, 2013, it kind of made sense because they were seeding in industry and providing essential distribution and payment infrastructure. But it's just, criminal's probably a bit strong, but it's extremely aggressive and impossible to justify in 2024.
I think it's the right word, Simon. Like, I think if you look back in time, like, sometime in the future, you look back and you're like, dude, that was criminal. That was like, people have rioted for less. Like,
there'll be a Harvard business case study about kind of anti-competitive behavior.
We're going to go into the Bay of Boston and start throwing our smartphones into the water and protest.
Modern
you won't be able to separate people from their phones, but I hope it goes the way of like, if you're a retailer, your brand, you sell shirts or something like that. Like you have multiple channels of which you can actually distribute your yes, like Amazon is a huge sales channel, but like it's not the only thing. You can have a Shopify store. You can and largely like what you pay is like somewhat close. Like maybe Amazon charges you a little bit more because there's some like existing less user friction there with like their payment profiles and things like that, but it's certainly not 30%. But the point being, like, there's also enough competition where you can also list on Walmart or you can list on whatever, and you can go on like a half a dozen to a dozen channels, right? So I hope kind of the same happens here for apps and game developers.
Yeah. And shout out also a couple of weeks ago in mid-August, Epic Game Store available for download for iPhones in the EU. And on Android devices worldwide. Unfortunately, where we are, we still don't have it unless I fire up the Android. So looks like options are, starting to expand a little bit. We'll hopefully more to come.
Yeah.
Sean, is B3 building an iOS app by chance? Is that what do we think?
Maybe, it's even I'll say this, even if we are building one, we're not looking forward to going through the App Store review process.
Got it. So November is what I'm hearing.
This is the
November,
persistent problem.
November will be the submission. Approval unknown.
Unknown. Yeah. Could be, a couple weeks, could be a couple months.
Cool.
Big emphasis on the first syllable there.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Shall we talk about about Sweet Play, Phylicia?
Sweet Play. Yeah, let's talk about that. So Sweet Play is basically, if I'm going to summarize it, it's a Web3 Steam Deck. It's a crypto gaming handheld console. Playtrend and Midson Labs launched it. It's now available for pre-order. If you're the first 1,000 buyers, you get a soulbound NFT offering future rewards. Pricing is pretty much smack where a Steam Deck would be $599. Comes with a 512 GP SSD storage. Runs both PC and crypto games. And I think it has an integration with Steam as well. 7-inch screen, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Delivery start in 2025. So my question is, are you guys going to be ordering one, or have you already picked one up?
Oh, for sure. Expensing it to the company, obviously. Can't wait. I don't know.
They're just joking. If you're the investor,
I hope the investors
of course,
tuning in.
Of course. Yeah, no, this is definitely a personal expense. Yeah, I mean, I think like when Ledger Sachs came out, I was like the first person to pre-order it. Solana phone, big fan, huge. So naturally, this is one of those things I absolutely will try. I mean, 99% of these fail, but there might be one standout, just like all the games pre-Notcoin failed, and the Notcoin was the one that like made it happen. I don't know. Why not? I think, it could be a cool collectible to collect dust on my bookshelf at home. So
Yeah.
Really
I will say that like I think the playbook here is similar to the Solana system, where like when Solana made a phone, everyone was like, why are they making a phone? Right? But I think like there was some good intent behind it, and the way that like they actually executed it worked out, because like the early adopters were rewarded in so many ways, but more explicitly, they got like tokens from Bonk and all these communities that kind of rallied behind the phone as like a token gate of some kind, right? A badge of honor for being an early adopter. I think likely you'll see like similar things play out here with this console. Now, is that in itself a good reason to buy it? Like, no, it's probably a good way to like fuel the initial like distribution of the phone or the console. It has to stand on its own, of course, which is definitely more of a test of time. But like Viktoriya, I think that if anything, you're participating in, why are you in the industry? You're not going to participate in some of these like cool ideas, and kudos to the team for like trying, because hardware is actually very difficult to do and like expensive to attempt even. So it's a supportive of giving it the old college try.
Yeah, I've been burned with hardware pre-orders and Kickstarters down the years, so I might just wait a little bit. Obviously, if they have an official integration with B3, I might reconsider that position. But right now, it's Sui and Ethereum, so it's not a must-have immediately. But I will be keeping an eye. I guess challenge for them is like, how do they compete with a Steam Deck? Because nothing to stop you like jailbreaking a Steam Deck and having crypto.
I was thinking about that. I was like, you could just jailbreak. Yeah, you could just jailbreak your Steam Deck.
Yeah, but you don't get tokens if you do that, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, if it helps, I mean, 599 USD. That's 0.005 ETH. If that helps with the girl math on your purchase. So I think
how many wares do you get on it?
But it's a collector's item, so really, for like you put it on your shelf,
your bookshelf, right behind you, right,
and then you
underneath the Hamster Kombat plate,
and then really you derive infinite value, infinite uses of it. So every time you look at it, it's like,
I think if you buy it and you play it and it brings you joy, you got some
brings
value
you
out of
joy.
it, Yeah, right. I
Okay.
mean, isn't that what it's all about?
I love it.
All right.
It's shiny. I want it.
So in 2025, we'll do a deep dive review on how it plays.
Yeah, we can do an unboxing, a breakdown.
Yeah.
All the
Yes,
things
I
we
was
could
gonna
have
say.
bought instead of it, but instead bought it, and where those things had gotten us if we had only made that purchase.
No, I'm more optimistic. I'm interested. I'd be interested to get it and test it out and see how
You
it
can
goes.
definitely expense one with your line of work, Phylicia. You should do that.
No, we also have it. Play Ventures also has investors, so we definitely.
Yeah, but you guys have to do your market research, or you can't
That's
invest.
true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Well, you can buy one unit,
Yeah,
Surely one unit amongst the entire Play Ventures team.
We'll
And you just pass
rotate
it on
it.
to each
We'll
other.
rotate it like
Post it
amongst
across the world.
15th of us, and
Yeah.
everybody gets an hour on it. You got to book the time.
All right.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, we're on to the last one here. So let's talk about Sugartown. It looks like Sugartown has been sold off by Zynga. So yeah, it looks like they've sold it to a company called D20 Labs, founded by former VP of Zynga, Matt Wolf. Oh, an ex-GM head of product, Tommy and Go, who we actually know and is a good friend of the Bear. I didn't realize he was involved with that. So the Sugartown NFTs have been sold on OpenSea since 2023. Sorry, since August of last year, so about a year now. They sold 493 at an average price of 0.135 ETH, and yeah, the sale, I mean, like any, I guess, company sale or asset sale has been in process for months. D20 Labs has reassured the existing NFT holders that the experience will improve. And I guess there'll be more information coming soon. But I think for me, like one of the big positives here is that former Zynga staffers started a new company to buy the asset and keep running it. And so that tells me that the team was positive about what they were building, but maybe, from the outside, it looks like they couldn't quite get the right framework in place or infrastructure to properly run a Web3 project within what is a publicly listed company, which doesn't really surprise me.
Well, Zynga's been acquired by
Take-Two.
Take-Two, so yeah, correct. So it's even part of an even bigger conglomerate, and the fact that I think the entire D20 Labs team is basically ex-Zynga. And exiting a Web3, I think it looks like a spin out. So, it's like same team working on it, maybe able to do it in a faster and more free manner. So it'll be interesting. They're meant to have an X Spaces live chat soon. So I guess we'll find out more.
That's really cool. Interesting fun fact. Sugartown was actually supposed to be one of the projects deployed on Coinbase NFT, RIP, to that product. Sean and I were actually working very closely.
Worked on it once upon a time. Yeah.
Once upon a time. That's actually how we met at Coinbase, is back in 2021. 2022. When we were launching Coinbase NFT together, I was doing BD and partnerships for all the creators that were going to be launching NFTs. And that's why the Zynga team was brought in. We were working really closely with Matt and team. And Sean was on the engineering team under leadership of Sachin for the launch of the product. The product is dead now, but the connections and the friends made along the way last forever. So exciting to see that they're going to continue on in Web3. I know there was a lot of skepticism even internally when we were working with them on like, how do we price this? How many units do we release? Do we really want to work with Coinbase NFT? You guys are too corporate. I mean, all very valid points. And in the end, they did not end up working with Coinbase NFT, which is good for them. Good for them. Yeah. But yeah, that's exciting.
And now they're independent too. So.
And now they're independent. Now they can make all the decisions. They can do anything.
Yeah. And I think to like the same point, like I don't blame them for like spinning out, right? Because like even anyone who's worked at like a larger size company, that there's certain processes that you kind of have to go through, even if you're doing something 100%. A little weird, and that can be a lot of friction. And sometimes it's a lot more efficient to kind of spin something out and do it in a bit more of like a vacuum or a silo. And maybe that's the intent here. But probably they just got frustrated. Like it can be, once you have to start talking to a bunch of lawyers and accountants just to get like the smallest thing done, like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, probably cool to go and to do this justice in its own way without the as much of the red tape.
Yeah, especially with how fast things move in this space, it's like not, they've got their hands and their legs tied that way. So they're free. They're free to do everything.
Wow, can't wait.
So bullish, I guess. Simon, are you feeling bullish?
Yes, I
am. I mean, you guys are just giving me flashbacks when I used to work at King and just how hard it was to ship games, and you'd sit through endless greenlight meetings, and I guess erased that memory because it's so traumatic, and you've just brought it back. So this is why we founded Mighty Bear. Yeah, and so I could totally understand what they're doing, and I think you guys also B3 is kind of similar, and so I'm excited for them to see what they can do.
Super. I think that's it. What are we doing next? Are we taking questions? Are we letting these guys get on with their day?
We can look to see if there's any questions, but if you guys have to jump, I mean, we're basically up for time anyway, so no hard feelings there.
Thank you for the hot tea, Viktoriya and Sean.
Thank you.
I'm sure Viktoriya will not